The morning started like any other in Midtown Manhattan. Commuters rushed past the entrance of the Fairhill Tower, a sleek, glass-and-steel office complex known for housing some of the city's most influential law firms and tech startups. Inside, the lobby was busy, polished floors, echoing footsteps, and the scent of fresh espresso wafting from the boutique cafe in the corner. Around 8:35 a.m., a man entered through the side door. No one paid him much attention. He wore navy coveralls with a faded name patch that read Ray. His boots were scuffed, the kind of wear that says you work with your hands. He carried a small toolbox, not flashy, just worn enough to tell a story. The receptionist, a young woman with glossy nails and earbuds tucked under her hair, barely looked up. He gave her a polite nod. She didn't return it. He pressed the elevator button and waited. When the doors opened, a man in a tailored suit was stepping out on a call. He brushed past Ray without acknowledging him, eyes focused on his phone, voice clipped and important. Ray didn't react, just stepped inside and hit the button for the 17th floor. Upstairs, he walked slowly down the hallway, reading nameplates outside each suite. People glanced at him, then quickly looked away. A few whispered. One woman clutched her purse a little closer. A man stepped out of an office. Late 30s. Blonde. Expensive haircut. He frowned the moment he saw Ray. "Hey," the man said, walking up with the practiced assertiveness of someone used to being in charge. "You're with maintenance?" Ray nodded once. "Something like that." "Well, this isn't the service entrance," the man snapped, glancing down at the toolbox. "Next time, come through the back. We've got clients here." Ray looked at him. Not angry. Just still. Then he spoke quietly. "This is my building." The hallway went silent. The man blinked. He looked Ray over again, boots, coveralls, the quiet tone. Then he let out a short laugh, the kind that's more habit than humor. "Right," he said, shaking his head. "Sure it is." Ray didn't reply. Instead, he turned his head slightly, eyes scanning the hallway behind the man. A few more faces had appeared, curious ones. Receptionists, assistants, maybe an associate or two from the law firm in Suite 1704. The suited man cleared his throat, suddenly aware of the attention. "Look," he said, adjusting his tie. "I don't know what kind of joke this is, but you can't be here without clearance. If you're delivering something, fine. But don't go around pretending." "Mr. Harper." The voice came from farther down the hallway. A woman in her 50s with silver-streaked hair and a calm voice approached. She walked with purpose, a clipboard in one hand, a phone in the other. Her ID badge read Senior Property Manager. She stopped beside Ray and turned to Harper. "Is there a problem?" Harper blinked again. He says this is his building." The woman's gaze didn't waver. "That's correct." The silence landed hard. Harper's mouth opened, then closed. Behind him, someone let out a small breath like they'd been holding it. Ray didn't say anything. He just looked at Harper, calm still. The moment stretched. Harper stepped back. His jaw moved, but no words came. The silver-haired woman didn't flinch. "Mr. Raymond Ellis," she said, gesturing toward Ray with a slight nod. "Principal owner of Fairhill Tower and 2 other buildings in this block. He's here today to inspect tenant compliance and observe day-to-day operations." Her voice was even, professional, but each word felt like a correction Harper couldn't undo. Ray didn't gloat. He didn't smile. He just watched Harper, waiting to see what he'd do next. Harper started. "I had no idea." "You didn't ask," Ray replied, quiet but clear. Down the hall, someone closed an office door a little more softly. A receptionist picked up her phone, pretending not to listen. Harper turned red. He glanced at the property manager, then back at Ray. "Look, I didn't mean any offense. It's just your outfit." Ray's eyebrows didn't move. "Spit it out." Harper hesitated, flustered. "You just didn't look like someone who could own this place," Ray finished. The words weren't angry. Just plain. Honest. And somehow that made them hit harder. Harper swallowed. "I apologize." "Really?" Ray nodded once. "Noted." And then he turned, walking slowly down the hall toward the stairwell, not because he had to, but because he preferred the quiet. Behind him, no one said a word. The hallway felt different after Ray disappeared around the corner. No chatter. No fake laughs. Just silence, thick and uneven. Harper stood in place, unsure what to do with his hands. Eventually, he adjusted his cufflinks, like that might reset the moment. It didn't. The property manager tucked her clipboard under her arm. "We'll be conducting compliance audits throughout the week," she said, not unkindly. "I'd recommend reviewing your lease agreement, Mr. Harper." He nodded stiffly. "Of course." She turned without another word. In Suite 1704, the receptionist who'd clutched her purse earlier sank back into her chair, pretending to type. She didn't look up when Harper walked in. The whispers began later. In the break room. At desks. In private Slack threads. That was the owner? Why didn't anyone say anything? Did Harper really tell him to use the back entrance? People replayed the moment in their heads the way you do when something challenges what you thought you knew. One junior analyst, quiet until now, muttered to a colleague, "I shook that guy's hand once in the elevator. Treated me better than half the execs in this place." By noon, everyone in the building had heard. Ray sat alone in a quiet corner of the 18th floor conference room, a floor most tenants didn't know existed. It wasn't on the elevator directory. No logos, no offices, just clean lines, soundproofed walls, and a long matte black table. His phone buzzed. A message from his assistant, property manager, said Harper looked like he saw a ghost. "Want me to schedule a meeting with him?" Ray replied, "Not yet." He looked out the floor-to-ceiling windows. From here, the city looked smaller, glass towers that once felt out of reach. He'd spent 20 years learning the ins and outs of real estate. Not from business school. From boiler rooms, maintenance closets, and second-hand books he read during graveyard shifts. He learned fast, paid attention, built slowly. No one gave him anything. But eventually he bought his first building. Then 2 more. Quietly. Carefully. Always keeping the paperwork in his name but his presence low. It wasn't about being seen. It was about control. He checked the time. The next meeting was with the board of a startup on the 12th floor, one that still thought their rent check went to a faceless property group. Today they'd meet the face. Suite 1202 had frosted glass doors and a brushed steel logo that screamed venture capital. Inside, a receptionist in a white blouse barely glanced up as Ray entered. She looked at his boots, his coveralls, then back at her screen. "Deliveries go around the back," she said, tapping something without looking up. "I'm here for the noon meeting," Ray said. Her fingers paused. She looked at him again, confused. "With whom?" Ray didn't answer. Just smiled, calm and patient. Across the lobby, a young man in a navy blazer walked out of a conference room. Spotting Ray, he hesitated. Are you Mr. Ellis?" Ray nodded. The man hurried over, offering a hand. "Alex Rains, co-founder, Zenpath Technologies. Thanks for coming up." The receptionist blinked. Looked again. Ray caught it, the tiny shift in her posture, the flush in her cheeks. "No problem," Ray replied, shaking Alex's hand. "We've been meaning to meet the landlord in person," Alex said, leading him down the hall. "Didn't expect." "Well, thanks for making the time." Ray said nothing about the receptionist. Nothing about the surprise in Alex's tone. He just walked with him into the boardroom, ready to talk about lease terms, expansion plans, and late payments on 2 suites. The meeting began. And suddenly no one cared what he was wearing. The meeting wrapped just before 1. Ray stood, slid a small folder across the table toward Alex. Inside were updated lease documents, notes on fire code compliance, and a polite but firm reminder that the grace period for their unpaid utilities had expired. Alex nodded, clearly trying to mask his discomfort. "We'll get this sorted. Appreciate your directness." Ray offered a small nod. "It's just business." He left the room quietly. No handshake, no theatrics. Outside the glass door, the receptionist stood as he passed. Her voice faltered. "Sir, I'm sorry about earlier." Ray looked at her. Not with anger, not with pity. Just stillness. "I know," he said. Then he walked toward the elevator. When the doors closed behind him, she remained standing, staring at the space where he'd been. She didn't sit for a while. Back on the 17th floor, Harper sat at his desk. A paralegal had just finished recounting what she'd heard from a friend on 12. Harper didn't respond. He leaned back slowly in his chair, eyes on the ceiling, face unreadable. In that quiet moment, with no one left to impress, he looked like a man trying to figure out how much of what he believed was still true. By mid-afternoon, the building had settled into a strange kind of stillness. Not quiet, people still tapped keyboards, made calls, walked briskly with coffee cups. But under it all was a hum, like the sound of thoughts being rearranged. In the cafe downstairs, 2 interns whispered about the man in the hoodie. One had seen him in the elevator weeks ago and never thought twice. The other had held the door open for him once and joked he looked too serious to just be fixing pipes. On the 8th floor, a temp working reception scrolled through an email update from building management. The subject line read, "Owner site visits in progress." No explanation. Just a note. "Please extend courtesy to all visitors." She reread it twice. In the elevator, a woman with a sharp suit and sharper heels stepped inside as Ray stood near the buttons. She hesitated, just for a breath, then nodded at him. "Which floor?" he asked. "9, thanks." She didn't ask who he was, didn't make small talk. But when she stepped off, she turned slightly and said, "Hope your inspection's going well." Ray nodded once, just once. He didn't ask how she knew. Some things don't need to be said. At 3:12 p.m., Harper's office phone rang. He stared at the screen for a moment before answering. "This is Daniel Harper." The voice on the other end was calm, deliberate. "Mr. Harper, this is Raymond Ellis. I'd like to speak with you, off the record." Harper sat up straighter. "Of course. When?" "Now." 18th floor. Bring nothing but yourself. The line went dead. Harper stood, smoothing his tie even though no one could see him. He walked past his assistant without a word and entered the elevator. Alone. The ride up felt longer than usual. When he stepped out, the space was quiet. Too quiet. One long hallway, no signage, no receptionist. Just light from the tall windows and a single open door. Ray stood inside, hands in his pockets. Harper stepped in cautiously. Ray gestured toward a chair. Have a seat. Harper obeyed. There was no anger in Ray's voice, no raised tone. Just even, unshaken calm. You judged me, Ray said. Not because of anything I said, just how I looked. Harper tried to speak, but Ray held up a hand. I'm not here for apologies. I'm here to understand one thing. If I were just a man who fixed pipes, would you have spoken to me any differently? The question hung in the air. Harper sat frozen for a moment. His throat moved as he swallowed, trying to find the right words. Any words. I don't know, he finally said. Ray didn't nod, didn't blink. He just waited. Harper looked down. Probably, he admitted. I probably would have. Ray leaned back slightly, watching him. That's the problem. Harper nodded slowly, as if the full shape of the moment was finally becoming visible. I've worked in this building for 7 years, he said. I've seen dozens of vendors come through, cleaning crews, delivery guys, electricians. I never asked their names. I never looked twice. Ray's eyes narrowed, not in anger, but with the precision of someone who spent a lifetime observing. You assumed they were less. Harper looked up. I didn't think of it that way before. But yes, that's what it was. Ray let the silence sit between them, not rushing it. Do you think your staff learned that from you? He asked finally. Harper's face tightened. That question hurt more than the last. Yes, he said softly. Ray stood. Good. Then change it. Harper blinked. Just like that. No, Ray said, already walking to the window. Not just like that. Every day. Quietly. Without needing credit. He turned, looked Harper in the eye. And not because someone like me might be watching, but because someone like her might be. He gestured toward the city below. A janitor's daughter. A courier's son. Someone they'll meet in this hallway one day. You decide what they see. Harper didn't respond. He couldn't. Harper left the 18th floor without speaking to anyone. He took the stairs instead of the elevator. He didn't rush. Just walked slowly, hand trailing the metal railing, every step echoing louder than the last. He passed the 16th floor, the 12th, paused at 10, then kept going. Down on 7, he stopped at the break room. 2 junior associates were talking about the owner again, how he'd walked the halls in work boots, how no one had recognized him. They went quiet when they saw Harper. He didn't say anything to them, just nodded once, opened the fridge and poured himself a glass of water. Later, he emailed his team. The subject was, meeting tomorrow mandatory. In the message, he wrote, we need to talk about how we treat people. Not just clients, everyone. He didn't elaborate. He didn't have to. By the time he hit send, Ray was already walking the service corridor on the 3rd floor, chatting quietly with the head of janitorial. No clipboard, no entourage, just him listening. No one noticed, but the building's heartbeat had started to change. Not with noise, but with quiet gestures. And those are harder to fake. It was just after 5 p.m. when the evening cleaning crew arrived. Most tenants had gone home or were hunched over keyboards trying to finish just one more email. The building's buzz had softened into something slower, quieter. Ray stood near the freight elevator, speaking with Carmen, the shift lead. She was in her early 50s, wiry strong, with a laugh that usually came easy. But today she looked unsure. You don't have to stand here, she said, half smiling. We've got this. I know, Ray replied. Just wanted to see things from your side. Carmen looked down at her mop bucket, then back up. They look at us like we're furniture. Ray didn't respond right away. He just nodded gently. I know what that feels like. She studied him for a second. You own all this? Ray shrugged. I keep the lights on. You keep the building clean. Same goal. Carmen smiled for real that time. As Ray turned to go, a young man from the day crew passed them. He glanced at Ray, then did a double take. Recognition flashed in his face and he nodded a little too fast, a little too stiff. Ray nodded back. One small thing. A little late, but real. Sometimes change doesn't start at the top. It starts when someone in coveralls is treated like they matter and they remember. That evening, Harper stood alone in his office. The lights were off. The city outside was dimming, but the glow from his screen cast soft shadows across his desk. He looked at his reflection in the window, tie loosened, shirt wrinkled, a face that looked a little older than it had this morning. In the quiet, he clicked open a blank document. Titled it, Policy Suggestions, Internal Conduct and Client Interaction. He stared at the blinking cursor. Then he began typing. No jargon. No preamble. Just simple truths. We assume too much based on too little. We don't see people until we're forced to. That has to change. He paused, then added. Starting with me. He hit save. Didn't send it. Not yet. But it was there. A start. Behind him, the office lights flickered on automatically. Motion sensors. Just doing their job. Harper didn't move. He kept staring at the screen, unsure if what he wrote was enough. He knew it wasn't. But maybe it was the first honest thing he'd written in years. The next morning, the building was already alive by 7:45. Ray came in through the front this time. Same coveralls. Same calm walk. But today, people looked up when he passed. Not out of fear. Not out of awe. Just awareness. The security guard, a man who'd nodded at thousands of people without remembering a single name, stood a little straighter when Ray approached. Morning, Mr. Ellis, he said. Ray smiled. Good morning, Ron. Ron blinked. You, remember my name? You wear a name tag, Ray said, nodding toward his chest. Figured someone should read it. Ron chuckled softly, but there was something else in his eyes, respect, yes, but also surprise that felt almost like relief. Upstairs, someone had propped open the side stairwell door. A small sign had been taped to it. All visitors welcome through any entrance. No one had claimed credit. In suite 1704, Harper arrived early. He greeted the receptionist by name. Asked how her evening had been. She looked at him like she wasn't sure if it was a trick. But it wasn't. Ray stepped off the elevator on 12 just after 9. As he passed the receptionist's desk, the same young woman from the day before stood up this time. Mr. Ellis, she said, voice steady. Would you like some coffee? He paused, surprised. Yes, he said. Thank you. Small things, but this time they happened first. By late afternoon, Ray had finished his rounds. He stepped out into the lobby, the same one he'd entered unnoticed the day before. The light coming through the glass made everything look cleaner, sharper. The receptionist looked up, really looked this time, and gave a quiet nod. Ray nodded back. As he reached the door, someone called after him. Harper. He jogged to catch up, slightly out of breath. Mr. Ellis. Ray turned. Daniel. Harper hesitated, then held out a simple envelope. Draft of a new internal policy. For tenants. Not required yet. Just something I wanted you to see. Ray took it without reading. Slipped it into his coat. Thank you. Harper nodded. I was wrong about you. Ray looked at him. You were wrong about a lot of people. Harper didn't argue. Just stood there, holding the weight of his own words. Ray pushed the door open. The noise of the city drifted in, car horns, footsteps, life. Before stepping out, he said, next time, don't wait for someone in boots to teach you that lesson. And then he was gone. Harper stood alone by the glass, watching the man who walked like he didn't need to be seen. Because now he was.